on root cause and to develop a program to focus on operational disciplines, including ways to safely, and I stress that word, to safely speed up service. Today's statistics that we're sharing with you show that these programs, this approach, and this transit team is working. And I want Sally and the Subways team arraigned here behind me to rightly take credit for a further increase in on-time performance. So getting more granular, from a low point of under 60% punctuality, on-time punctuality in January of 2018, we have now achieved a 6-year high with an August weekday punctuality statistic of 84%. The data speaks for itself. It reflects sustained objective improvement in the everyday subway experience of our riders. And improving customer satisfaction, which again we'll talk about today, shows that riders are noticing. Every major metric is on an improving trend. Ultimately, what will make the real difference is whole-scale resignaling of the subway. Resignaling will transform reliability, and it will enable us to run more trains, as evidenced by the ongoing 90% plus performance on the 2 lines that already benefit from modern signaling, namely the 7 line and the L line, which are fully equipped with communications-based train control, CBTC. Now, the good news is that we have a plan to undertake such whole-scale resignaling, namely the fast-forward plan element of the forthcoming capital plan of the MTA. And the even better news is that thanks to the political courage and leadership of Governor Cuomo and his colleagues at the legislature, we are on the cusp, as the MTA, of achieving a fully funded capital program, and one that will focus on the key deliverables that Fast Forward sets out, namely resignaling, making the subway fully accessible, provision of new vehicles, and through them, fundamentally better service. The Governor's recent letter to the board shows that we are on the same page when it comes to these priorities. For now, our focus remains on delivery of immediate, sustained improvement. This has been delivered by the entire Subways team, supported by experts in operations planning and other departments represented here today. It has been achieved through the hard work, dedication, and professionalism of the 50,000 wonderful men and women of New York City Transit that move 6 million subway riders every day. To that end, I am delighted to be joined by both management and unionized staff today from across New York City Transit, my colleagues, and I will now hand over to Sally to explain how we met this new high and to take credit, and rightly so, for this further step towards providing the level of service that New Yorkers want, expect, and deserve. Sally.
Thank you, Andy. I am honored and very excited to be here today with members from the Subways team, frontline staff, and key management and leadership from critical disciplines throughout the Subways organization. 2 years ago, our system was on the heels of a years-long decline in performance. Our team stopped that decline and today has dramatically improved performance. As Andy mentioned, August on-time performance on weekdays was 84%. That's the highest on-time performance has been since April of 2013, more than 6 years. Delays today are 50% better, a 50% decrease from just 1 year ago. Major incidents are nearly 40% better than they were 1 year ago. And in fact, they are the lowest level now that we have seen since we began tracking that statistic 4.5 years ago. In fact, many of our customer-focused metrics are now at the highest levels we have seen since we began tracking them 4.5 years ago, including customer journey time performance, additional train time, and service delivered. But amidst all of this data, it can be easy to lose sight of the context of the stories behind the success. We're here not by accident. We are here because of the tremendous vision and fortitude of our leaders. Governor Cuomo, Ronnie Hakem, Pat Foy, Andy Byford. These leaders fought for the resources our system needs and fought for plans to rapidly complete repairs at an unprecedented rate in the system. We are here because of the incredible dedication, expertise, and sacrifice of the Subways team. They worked tirelessly to deliver these fixes and to find new and better and different ways of doing business to become more efficient at what we do. We're here because all 30,000 Subway employees are now engaged in our effort to improve performance, to find things in their everyday that they can do, even if it's just a small thing, that collectively help us save seconds across the entire system and make real benefits for our customers. And we are here because we are planning for both the present and the future, a full, ambitious modernization of our program and our system under the Fast Forward plan. We have cleared tens of thousands of defects in the system. We've installed over 50 miles of continuous welded rail. We've significantly reduced tracked fires. We've cleared hundreds of miles of drainage in our system. We've introduced new tools, means, and methods to dramatically improve our work productivity during line closures. We've improved fleet performance. We have safely increased speeds at 150 locations in the system, and we've recalibrated hundreds of signals, timed signals that were slow clearing in the system. But we don't always focus on the people that make it happen. The long hours worked, the family vacations that were cut short, some even skipped, the t-ball games, the kids and the grandkids that were missed. Our team, the Subways team, we believe in our system. We wake up each day to do the right thing for our riders. We pick apart each day's performance with the goal of making tomorrow better. Our team rose to the tremendous challenge of turning our iconic and amazing system around. And today is an exciting and very proud day for us. We stand here today thrilled about what we have done and fully committed and resolute to continue our progress. I especially want to thank our frontline forces, represented by TWU, our operating supervisors, represented by SSSA and TSO, and managers at all levels in the organization, every employee working together to deliver these improvements. Our entire organization has embraced a new approach that combines frontline input, sophisticated analytics, and decades of expertise to identify the root cause of issues and to implement effective and lasting changes. In the month of August, on-time performance improved on every single line in the system. The lettered lines, our B division, averaged 25% improvement. Our numbered lines averaged 18.5% improvement in August. In addition to the statistics that you'll see in the release, we are also tracking run times across our system, and we are seeing that trains are traveling from one end to the other faster in 19 than in 18, and we are seeing these improvements across the system, across nearly every single line. Trains are safely moving faster, customers' journeys are more reliable. We are helping New Yorkers make the most of every minute of their day. The people here with us today and the teams that they represent deserve immense credit for the improvement that we're here talking about today. They are continuing to push Subways each and every day to find improvements and to deliver real benefit for our customers. We're not done. We know that we have more to do, and we're excited to continue the progress. We're happy to take questions.
Well, I want to be crystal clear about this, Dan. I don't want to cut any service. So we're, both Sally and I and the wider New York City Transit team, under my leadership, we've come here to improve service, not to, cut service. That's anathema to me. Having said that, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We do face a real financial challenge in the short to medium terms in terms of operating expenditure. So we continue to look at ways to make ourselves more efficient. The recently issued blueprint for the MTA going forward, the Elix Partners Plan, does envisage substantial savings that can be made across the organization without impacting service, and we will continue to look at every possible way of making ourselves more efficient without impacting frontline bus or subway service. But we're still working on that. Certainly, I didn't come here to preside over a decline. We will do everything possible to minimize the impact.
Just a quick follow-up. Are you coming up, or anyone on your staff coming up with any kind of revenue generators so you don't have to cut service?
We are, in that we look at things like marketing, other ways to bring in secondary income. I'm going to leave no stone unturned. At the end of the day, if we have to make any or put any impact on service, that will be an absolute last resort. We will have exhausted every other possible angle before we even contemplate going there. So.
I appreciate the delays for that. My commute today still took me 15 minutes longer than it
Yeah. Sure.
What do you say to riders who have those experiences? Maybe on the once a week now, it's once 3 times a week, but still feel like the system isn't reliable.
Okay, so what I'd say to riders is that's why Sally and I both said the job's not done. We recognize that that we've still got a long way to go. We want to get to, I want to get to high 90s in terms of performance, but to do that there needs to be a step change in infrastructure. What we can do and what we have been doing is squeezing every possible ounce of performance improvement out of existing infrastructure and out of existing equipment. But we still have, in many cases, 100-year-old equipment. So there's a limit to how far we can go with that. Today's signal problems on a conventional signal system show that we are still vulnerable. I made reference, you may have just missed it, in my opener, of the real need that has to happen, which is whole-scale re-signaling. When you get modern signaling, you have way less line-side infrastructure as single points of failure. It's inherently more reliable. It means you can run more trains, you have less crowding. That's what will be the real transformative thing. So, I too had a slow journey here from Bowling Green. This shows that the job's not finished yet, and shows what really needs to happen, which is the transformation envisaged by Fast Forward. So, well, it will be as high as we can make it. Don't get me wrong. We're not limiting our ambitions. I said some time back, and I think I heard a collective groan from my team. But I've said publicly, I think we can hit 85% without any more new signaling schemes. Bear in mind, we already have modern signaling, CBTC signaling on the L and the 7 lines. Have a look at the stats. Those lines, it's no coincidence. Those lines regularly achieve 90% plus. Why? Because it's modern signaling. We're working on Queens Boulevard. That's a current ongoing CBTC project at the moment. And we've also got work ongoing. Another CBTC scheme is being progressed on the Culver line down in Brooklyn. Then we have an order of the other lines to be done. So I think we can hit 85%, but I think that there does come a diminishing return after that, where it will be increasingly difficult to squeeze more out of the system, given that we are hampered by the, it's still safe, but the limitations of existing technology. Vin.
It's a higher number than that. We have been focusing on the grade time signals, which are a portion of the around 400 that we've identified, and of those we have recalibrated the vast majority to the point now where we have entire corridors that have been readjusted. 400 was the entire base of timed signals that we identified, which included both grade timed and some station timed signals. We're focusing on the grade time.
May I just add to that? Sorry, Dan, I'll come to you. Can I just add to that? I think it is important. I'm glad you asked Finn the question about the grade timers. I mean, add to that the redundant speed restrictions that we've taken out, safely taken out. And a lot of this was informed by our own union colleagues. We went out and asked the people best placed to know what we needed to do and where. Train operators, maintainers. We asked them, where do you think you're being unnecessarily held up? And we've progressively addressed those deficiencies. And so it was that, in combination with the Subway Action Plan, which fixed equipment, that's what's really powered this renaissance in terms of subway punctuality. You needed to fix things, Subway Action Plan, and you also needed to get better at the operational disciplines with Save Seconds. Dan, you were going to ask one, and then Jose.
We identified them as slow clearing timed signals. That's a round number. Mm-hmm. We've recalibrated, yes, most of the grade time signals, which is where we're focusing our initial efforts.
It's ongoing.
It is ongoing.
Jose.
Mm-hmm.
I think pretty well. I mean, it was fantastic that Governor Cuomo, in his recent direction to the MTA board, a publicly released letter, Governor Cuomo specifically said that we need to push on with resignaling the subway. So that was music to my ears, because that's exactly what we should be doing. So I'm very excited about the fact that we already have two programs underway at the moment, namely Queens Boulevard and the Culver Line. We're very keen now to get on with letting the next raft or suite of lines, if you will, and I'm extremely excited about the fact that for the first time, or not for the first time, but I guess for what we have on the immediate horizon, we have a record capital plan in the offing that will enable us to do the resignaling, to make the system fully accessible, to improve bus service, to buy new vehicles, to modernize stations. This is an exciting place to be right now. Ben?
You said, referring to the what happened there?
We are seeing significant improvements across the entire system. If we look at August of 2018, 1 out of 20 lines, excluding our shuttles, 1 out of 20 lines had on-time performance greater than 80%. This year, more than half, 11 of 20 lines have on-time performance greater than 80%. We are making steady improvements across the entire system, steady and significant improvements across the entire system.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, sure. I mean, so the IG did give us some useful advice in how we might make our fare evasion methodology even more granular. You know, we've said for months now that this is an issue that we can't ignore. Every dollar that doesn't come to us in terms of fares that should be paid is a dollar that we can't improve in service. So, you know, where Dan asked me the question earlier about service impacts in terms of the budget, if we just ignore around $250 million a year that's owed to us but that we're not collecting, then you know, that doesn't help our budgetary position at all. So you'll have seen around the system we are having a real push on just asking people to pay the fare. You know, at the end of the day, we're not interested in arresting people. We just want people to pay the fare that they must. We are working with the city to provide a lower fare, the Fair Fares program, such that if you can't afford it, there is a mechanism for you. But this is something that continues to be a challenge for us. We do now have more enforcement both on the subway and on buses, and that has the added benefit of protecting our frontline workers against assaults. So.
What is that going to cost, and what do you
So the MTA, the additional 500 officers that we're seeking for MTA police, this is being funded largely through the district attorney, Cy Vance's fund that he's made available. And bear in mind, this is a gentleman, Cy Vance, who I went to see just the other day in pressing for the highest penalties to be applied to someone that thought he could attack our staff with impunity. So I very much welcome DA Vance's intervention here in providing funding that will enable us to recruit these additional officers, so it's effectively funded. It also means that where we have pulled MTA police in from elsewhere on the system, such as the railroads, they can now move back to doing what they were doing and to provide better coverage across the system. These additional police officers will enable us to continue to focus on getting the homeless the help that they need in conjunction with the city. They will help us in terms of fare evasion, and they'll also help us in terms of making sure that our staff are properly protected.
Just to follow up, how are the police going to help with the homelessness? Are they going to be working with outreach workers?
Yeah.
Are they going to do special outreach training?
Sure. Look, at the end of the day, I've always said the issue of the homeless in this city is not purely an MTA problem. It just isn't. You only need to go upstairs. You will see vulnerable people on the streets of New York. This is a societal problem. It's a societal challenge. These, people are very vulnerable. They're in the subway for a reason. But what we need to do is get them the help that they need. They need to have sufficient, safe, warm hostels to which they have, for which give them confidence that it will be a safe place to go. At the end of the day, the subway is not the place for people to effectively live, and B, I owe my customers a safe, clean, pleasant traveling environment. So the specific on the police is what they do is they assist us in getting homeless people to get off the trains and get off the stations, but this is much more sophisticated than what's been done in the past, where we would just basically evict people from stations only for them to come straight back in. That you've got to address the root cause, and there must be then a handover to trained city personnel who will properly then convey homeless people onto appropriate place, whether that be a hostel or a hospital, dependent on their needs. Vin? No, they'll be spread across the 5 boroughs. Okay, I'll answer first, then you do the detail. Sure. Okay, so operating environment is a new term that used to be categorized as overcrowding, if you'll remember from former transit committee packs. And I always said, in fact, pretty much from day one, I said that's a euphemism. I don't want to see it in the transit committee pack. It's not, overcrowding isn't the cause, it's the effect. So we changed that category to operating environment to then get to the root cause of what is this big chunk of delays that can't be easily attributed to a specific piece of a specific asset or piece of equipment. And this is really about that type of incident that just require us to focus in better ways on punctuality, on getting dwell times right, on getting trains to depart termini at the right time, on making sure that crews are in the right places. Effectively, the save seconds work that Sally has so ably led, and I'll let Sally talk to more of the detail.
I'll also add that that we've made great strides over the last year and a half with respect to how we categorize delays and how we analyze the root cause of incidents. And some of the reason that the operating environment delays have gone down is because we're getting better at attaching them to the parent incident that before we weren't able to do. We used to record our delay cause at the terminals, which means that the perspective on the system was somewhat limited from a terminal. We've now moved all of that recording to a centralized rail control center where we have a better understanding of the entire system and the ripple impacts of a particular delay. So some of those delays that formerly were in that operating environment category are now more appropriately being paired with an incident that's happened somewhere else in the system. When we first initiated the this new system at the RCC, and we first rolled out our new reporting, terming that environment operating, terming that category operating environment, 40% of our delays were in that category. Today, less than 25%. We're at 24%. And a lot of that has to do with the optimal operations work and the work on saving safe seconds, absolutely, at every single opportunity. A lot of that has to do with the delay reduction and the incident reduction that has less ripple effects on other things in the system and better ability to recover.
And let me just add one further point, Dan. It was never either or. It's all subway action plan or it's all safe seconds. You needed both, and it seemed to me very early, almost immediately, that you couldn't just tolerate this chunk of unknown, which is why I asked my team to focus on root cause and to particularly get stuck into that sort of amorphous lump of so-called overcrowding delays, which were nothing of the kind. We absolutely needed subway action plan to stop incidents happening and to cut the number of major incidents, which are now at an all-time low of 38. But you needed, what was missing was you also needed to focus on operational disciplines and the run times. And the way we've speeded this thing up is because we identified there were slow clearing grade timers, dwell times were non-standard, they were inconsistent, and because there were speed restrictions there that frankly were not necessary. So it needed to be both subway action plan and safe seconds. That's the compelling mix. We'll do one more. One more. Go on. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very proud of my train cleaners. They do a very difficult job, and they have to deal with some pretty difficult circumstances. So you see them across the system. I always make a point of thanking them. We continue to be very focused on train cleanliness in a variety of interventions. I have said that I owe my customers clean, safe, pleasant traveling environment. We've still got some work to do in that regard, but I'm very proud of the cleaners, and for that matter, these people stood behind me. They're my heroes. They're the people that do this work. We're the people that get to stand up at the front, but I'm very proud to call 50,000 men and women of transit my colleagues, because it's a team effort that's delivered these results today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Folks in the press, all of these people who have been back here, every single one of them, if they want to talk to you, is authorized to do so. The MTA says if they want to talk to you, they're welcome to do so, all right? So any one of you, you can say no, but if you say yes, the MTA says you're more than welcome to speak to the press today, all right? Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you, guys.